The Capitol is the Republican congressman from Oklahoma's 4th District, Deputy Majority Whip Tom Cole. Congressman, thank you as always for joining us.
Alex, thank you.
So, Congressman, a few months ago, 2 months ago to be precise, you came on the show and you said the following. Let's roll the actual tape.
Shutting down the government is a suicidal tactic. Eventually, it will be reopened, but the president will not have capitulated, and you will have discredited yourself. And along the way, you would have hurt the American people.
Having said that, Congressman, where do you think we are today, and what do you think of the government shutdown?
Well, I'd say I was pretty accurate in my prophecy. Frankly, I think we have made more progress probably than most people understand. Over half the government is back working, but it actually should have never been shut down. That's the Defense Department and the civilian contractors and civilian workers. We voted on multiple other things to try and open parts of it. A lot of Democrats, honestly, have voted with us on those things. And the Speaker has put out multiple proposals. Now, what he said most recently, both last week and on Sunday, was let's sit down and have a negotiation and discussion. And I'm surprised, frankly, that my friends on the other side are basically saying, nope, our way. We don't have to talk about anything. We're not even going to do what we did in 2011. You just got to raise the debt ceiling automatically. Look, I helped raise the debt ceiling working with the president in 2011. Would be happy to do so again, but I can't vote for it without doing something about the deficit. It's just an unreasonable political position to take. Okay,
but let me focus on two pieces of this. One, so you do or do not think it is a suicidal political tactic?
Oh, I do not think it's an appropriate political tactic. I absolutely don't. I've said that repeatedly, have not changed my mind about that. Now, again, I think the president and my friends on the other side bear some responsibility because they've been unwilling to sit down and negotiate.
Okay.
You don't automatically do anything the other side tells you to do.
Well, okay, let's talk about the negotiations, too, because I guess I would ask you as a Republican, do you think members of your own party want to see the U.S. default on its credit?
No, I certainly don't, and I think it would be a big mistake to do it. Now, you'll have some members, honestly, on both sides, that will never vote to raise the debt limit. But raising the debt limit without addressing debt is like, going to your credit card company after you've maxed out and saying, I'm not going to change my spending, I'm not going to spend less, but I want you to raise the rate.
Well,
look, you have to sit down and make some adjustments to what we're doing.
Okay, but on the issue of raising the debt ceiling, it seems like Republicans and Democrats agree that not raising it would have catastrophic effects for the American economy and that everybody wants to raise it. Is that right?
Well, I think people want to raise it, but they want to change the course, the spending course that we're on at the same time, or at least discuss that. That's what we did in 2011. One of the reasons why the deficit is half of what it was then is because we did sit down and did negotiate and did arrive at some real spending cuts.
And I think the White House has said they are willing to talk about the budget negotiations, but only after the debt ceiling is written. I guess I ask you, here's my fundamental question is this. If both Republicans and Democrats feel like and agree that it's a bad idea to not ceiling, then how is it a concession to raise the debt ceiling?
It's the triggering mechanism for the discussion. And look, if the president, by the way, hadn't even told us how much he wants to raise the debt ceiling. We're 10 days out. He's not put a proposal on the table as to what to do. So, well, Congress can figure that out. Really? With the executive branch is sort of absent from the discussion when they're who actually spends the money. We should sit down. The president's actually got some proposals in his own budget that I would support. They're not easy to do. Change CPI and means testing for Medicare, some other things like that. Pretty tough medicine that he's recommended that I would vote for. But again, right now he wants a debt ceiling increase before there's even a discussion. Seems to me that's a non-starter.
Congressman, I'm going to open this up to our panel in New York here. Jake and Joy, it's hard for me to understand how this is really a negotiation if what the Democrats are asking for is something the Republicans agree happen.
Well, most of them agree, because there was that National Journal piece today that there are some Republicans who are literally fantasizing that you can breach the debt limit and it's really not such a bad idea. I think part of the problem is that you have Tom Cole there that sounds pretty reasonable, but there are still Republicans in the caucus and they're still being told by some of their media mentors that, you know what, you can breach the debt ceiling. They are willing to go there. And for them, a win is to have the president capitulate on something, to have him cry uncle, period. That's all they want. They don't don't care about the larger fiscal issues.
Jake?
Well, Congressman Cole, who is clearly one of the grown-ups still around there, just said that President Obama has proposed significant reductions in the deficit, including CPI reductions and so on. And, by the way, the context is the deficit has been on a downward trajectory. The revisions are positive. So the idea that you need to suicide vest to your chest to get the other side to pay attention to you is clearly not warranted by what's going on. So the question is, why are they doing it now?
You know, Congressman, I want to ask you, too, about, we at NBC News had its whip count of 22 Republicans who've said they would vote for a clean bill of funding. We're now talking about the CR and not the debt ceiling. But I ask you as the deputy, Peter King has been out there saying there are moderates in back rooms, there are moderates out there who would join with Democrats to end this government shutdown and pass a clean bill of funding. Do you agree? Are those moderates out there?
Well, I don't think they're moderates. There's a lot of conservatives. I consider myself a conservative, not a moderate. And I've voted to raise the debt ceiling before, I've worked with the administration. So I think that's a doable thing. But remember, right now, the president's asking us to do something he didn't do for George Bush. He never voted to raise the debt ceiling. Does that mean he was unreasonable then or uncompromising?
Well, but I think in all fairness, if you look back at history, the stakes of this negotiation are radically different than they have been at any time since 1981.
I don't think they are at all. But the deficit is radically different and radically higher than it has been. And there's a CBO report out just 2 weeks ago that says, look, if you don't address the long-term things, this drop will be very temporary. You need to sit down and talk about Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, food stamps, farm programs. There's a lot of things in this. But right now, that's just simply not happening. And I don't think it's asking the president too much to sit down and talk. I mean, he is the commander-in-chief, the CEO of the largest executive organization in the world,
sure,
not even convening a discussion.
Is this a position Republicans would be happy with if the tables were reversed, which is to say Democrats, a minority, a third of the government holding a Republican, holding the country's economic rating?
By the way, it has been reversed. There were multiple shutdowns during the Reagan years when Democrats controlled the House but did not the Senate or the presidency.
Right, but
in American history is it's not.
But don't you think that the Republican Party has shifted to being sort of controlled by a more fractious minority that is more deeply divided on partisan lines than ever before?
Well, I don't know, but there's always divisions. I mean, look, we've been the majority party in the House for 16 of the last 20 years. And so you're going to have some divisions and differences of opinion. But at the end of the day, if you come to a deal with the other side, which is what I think the Speaker wants to do and what he did in 2011, then both sides provide some of the votes. You don't need everybody then. But until you begin to have a discussion, how can you reach a deal?
Congressman, I think that this is a conversation that we're going to have to continue over the course of the next few weeks. But I do want to ask you about something that seems to not be dividing Americans and people in Congress and our political leadership on exactly partisan lines, and that is the name of the Washington Redskins. I know you are a member of the Chickasaw Nation, and you've come out and said you thought the name of the team was insensitive, and I wonder, today after the president has made his remarks, echoing sort of the same sentiment, whether you think the Redskins should change their name.
Well, I do. I've never equivocated about that. Look, I have a lot of respect for them as a football, program. It's a great tradition. He's won Super Bowls. Don't have anything bad to say about the team or the ownership. But I think if they reflect on it, the name is just simply inappropriate. It's offensive to a lot of people, certainly to me, but to a lot of others, millions of others. And I wish they would look at, changing it. I don't think it's asking too much. In a town where people were sensitive enough to change the name of the Washington Bullets to the Washington Wizards because they thought it promoted violence, I don't see how in the world you can have the moniker that the Washington franchise uses today. And in the end, I think it will change.
As someone that grew up with a Washington Bullets sweatshirt, I can't believe that was ever even the name of the team. Tom Cole from Oklahoma 4th District.
Someday we'll say that about the football.
Exactly. Thanks for your time.